What up, everybody? DJ Anubis.
And DJ Neko.
With the Military Radio Podcast, doing another movie review for you. Today we just got out from seeing Thor, Love and Thunder, Kachiga. And we're going to give our thoughts on what are you doing? It's the whole Thor thing. So we're going to try to avoid a lot of the major spoilers, but there might be a few in there.
There might be some things that'll
dropped here and there.
We're not going to tell you any of the ending or like the main points. We're just going to kind of tell you how we feel.
Yeah. First off, do hang around for the end of the film. There's 2 post-credit scenes that you'll need to be paying attention to, much like Doctor Strange. So just be aware of that. So basically what we have now in this, as far as a premise, Christian Bale plays a guy named Gore. He's a what would you call it? A follower of God's, but it's
like his God has failed him, kind of thing.
He had a young daughter who they were suffering, and their lands had gone barren.
There's no water.
And so she passes, and then he's pretty much on the verge of death, and then is called by something to like an oasis that's out there. So when he arrives, there's water, and then there's like all this fruit sitting out there. So he starts chowing on it, only to realize that there's this guy there with some like flowers that somehow talk or whatever. And it turns out this is a god that he worships, like a sun god of some sort. I don't know what the god's name is.
And he was like, "Oh, we've been praying to you and praying to you." And
this is Gore. Yeah.
And the guy was just kind of like mocking him for believing in him. He's like, there is no eternal salvation. There is nothing. You guys are idiots.
Yeah. And what would happen is this particular god had just managed to slay a version of this dark deity that can kill gods called the Butcher. And they use a necro sword. So when Gore kind of like crawls into the food, he kind of hits the blade of the sword, which leaves like a mark on his hand. But as Neko said, the god that he's there with is kind of mocking him, just not really caring that his daughter had died, his people had died. He says there will always be more.
There will be more followers and more worshipers.
Right. So at this point, Gore is like, fuck you. He takes off his emblem and throws it, or the idol, throws it back at the god and says, I disavow you, or whatever it is. And so the god's like pulls him up ready to kill and choke out his life. And somehow the sword is called to Gore, to which he ends up killing this god, and that's his new identity as the god, the Butcherer there.
So mind you, this entire scene, it's like the opening credits. I had no idea that the fucking movie had started. Like there was no like nothing. It just started.
She's like, "What movie was that?"
I was like, "Is that a trailer?" What? And he's like, "No, that's the beginning of the movie." I'm like, there were, how there's an intro and then there's some credit. There was nothing. It just said that, then Marvel, and then the rest of the movie started. There was no big like. The intro is kind of like what you see in the trailer with what's his face? The blue guy. I forgot his name. The
Korg.
Rock. Yeah, Korg. Yeah. Like kind of giving, let me tell you the story about Thor. So that's kind of your intro anyway. And turns out that Thor at the present is still kind of working with the Guardians of the Galaxy, trying to help these smaller planets when
they're attacked, because unknown to them at that point.
They didn't realize it was the Butcher.
Yeah, they didn't know the gods were dying. So the Guardians are like fighting, they're shooting and doing their thing, but they finally come to Thor, who's like kind of like in this Zen place, trying to find himself. And they're like, "Look, we need you." So Thor gets up, he's like, "Okay," and he goes and does his thing, defeats him, destroys the temple he was supposed to like keep standing, but that was kind of like one of the funnier moments.
He's so full of himself, and he's talking to Star-Lord like, I'm just waiting for someone to call help for Thor. It was just really cute. And I've always been a big fan of Thor. I like all the Thor movies a lot. I know not everybody does. And from what I heard, if you liked Ragnarok, that's the last one, right? Mm-hmm. If you liked Ragnarok, you're going to like this one. If you did not like Ragnarok, you're not going to like this one. It's very similar in humor and style. And I've seen some people post that they saw the Thor movie and they didn't like it. And then, but mind you, I didn't like Ragnarok. So I think it's kind of like a personal choice.
Yeah, but like even right now, Rotten Tomatoes, I think the critics had it like 69%. So I haven't looked at the audience yet in terms of, because it just came out.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, some of the criticisms have been that it's a little bit too funny, like they're trying too hard with some of the comedy bits, which early in the film I can kind of see they're kind of forcing some things. I'm just kind of like, yeah, okay, it's cute. But really, as it goes along, it's much better as a movie.
It gets kind of deep too.
Oh yeah, like, we end up catching up with Jane Foster, played by Natalie Portman, who's on Earth, and we discover that she has like stage 4 cancer. So she's taking IVs, and you know,
she starts like, because she's a doctor. Yeah, she's doing all her own research, and she's sending samples of her blood to every, you know, physicist and doctor, physician, and doctor that she knows, and they're like, Jane, I'm really sorry, I really don't have, you know, any answers for you. And you know, basically we're telling her, take her chemo, get her affairs in order, and hope for the best. And that's when she decides she wants to go to New Asgard, because she found some of her old mythology books about Thor
and Mjolnir in particular, because apparently Mjolnir can be like used as a sign of health and regeneration. And she says later on that Mjolnir was calling to her. So remember now, Mjolnir was destroyed by Hela in Ragnarok, where it was broken in pieces. So on New Asgard, it's like in this little plastic bubble thing that tourists can come through and like look at.
Yeah, New Asgard is like a tourist
attraction.
There's cruise ships, rides, but there's also the Asgardians are living there too. But everybody is so enthralled.
Well, not just that, but they now have basically a portal from different worlds, because you have different types of beings or alien species that are living amongst the new in New Asgard. So we're seeing Earth kind of open up. I don't know about the rest of the planet, but certainly New Asgard is like this portal to different beings being there. And of course, we have the actors from Ragnarok in there as well. Matt Damon shows up again, portraying Loki. So there's some funny bits in there with all that. I think even who was your girl that came out as Hela?
Oh crap! I forgot.
She's your girl from Gilmore.
That wasn't her.
I think it was.
I don't think it was.
She's gonna look it up. I'm pretty sure it was.
My phone's over here.
I
have to look at the.
But they again, they're doing entertainment for a lot of people in New Asgard. But we didn't realize that Gore needs to come to New Asgard for something that would get him to what is called the Eternity. And so Thor, of course, is splitting with the Guardians. They're going to go help out some of these other planets that have lost their gods already. Thor figures out that they're going to try to go to New Asgard. So he goes back there, meets up with the Valkyrie. I forget her name. She was in Ragnarok as well.
It is Melissa McCarthy. Oh my God. I didn't think it was her.
Yeah, it's her.
I love how it's like actor Loki, Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So it's got a lot of good funny moments in there. And of course, we find Jane there at one point before Thor arrives back in New Asgard, and she's looking at the pieces remaining of Mjolnir, and it starts to form, and then we don't really see what happens after that until later. Thor arrives. Well, actually, I should say at first, Gore arrives. It's dark. Kids are sleeping. People are sleeping in their little town. Gore has the ability to work with the shadow world, so he can create monsters out of shadows, darkness, whatever. And he starts attacking the town. And the town, for the most part, the people behind the Valkyrie are fighting back as well as they can.
The Valkyrie is like the president of New Asgard.
Yeah, she's
or the queen leader, or the king. I forgot what they called her.
But then Thor shows up and he's fighting, and then there's another kind of funny moment where the Valkyrie's like, "We'll just wait till the other one comes," and he's like, "What?" And he's like, "You'll see." And all of a sudden, Mjolnir just comes out of nowhere, and it's smashing and hitting people.
And you see this in the trailer too, where he's like,
come to me, Milnor.
And
then it just gets so close, and then zooms back, and of course it goes into the hand of Jane Foster. And at first he doesn't even recognize. He's like, "Who are you? What are you doing? Why are you dressed like me?" All this stuff, and then realize they end up talking. But not before Gore manages to kidnap all the children in New Asgard and take them away as obviously a trap.
Bait, yeah.
So we find out that Gore wants the axe that Thor has because it can open up a pathway.
What was it called? Storm Chaser?
Yes.
Yes.
Can open a pathway to where he needs to go for the final or the most. I don't know what you would call it, like the actual creator of everything.
Yeah, it's the center. I forgot what they called it, like the integrity or something.
Well, it's eternity, but
yeah, so it's the center of the universe, and that's where, if you go there, he needs that to open the portal, and then you get like a wish.
Right, and so, but before even to that, like Thor and is teaming up now with Jane and or Mighty Thor as we want to call it. I don't want to get it wrong because I don't want to get beat up by her.
Lady Thor.
Like, and Valkyrie, they want to try to form, alliance with some other
stronger gods.
So they go to I forget what they call it here, but it's almost like Olympus. So basically, they're going there and
it's like the protected god city.
Realm, yeah.
And it's like all the gods, everybody. Oh, that's that god. That's that god. That's the dumpling god. The dumpling god was really
now,
cute.
For reference, this is basically how Thor and Mighty Thor look in the film. I think Portland looks great. She looks a little buff there. Been working out.
See, I don't know if that's CGI help or if that's really her, because I mean, I'm sure she did do a little working out and stuff, but the only reason I say that is because Natalie Portman is very much a method actor. You remember Black Swan,
right?
She trained like for weeks and weeks and weeks with ballet. She got herself down to 85 pounds, learned all the Swan Lake variations. I mean, she's not a ballerina, but she did her very best to learn everything she can.
From what I read, she did work out for this film. Now, I don't know. Again, you can do certain things with film to make it look a little more buff than normal. And here's a picture, of course, of Bale as Gore, the Butcher.
So, do you remember Christian Bale in The Machinist?
Yep,
that really weird. Yeah. So, I remember he's also very much a method actor. Like in the I have to take my glasses off; they're killing me. In The Machinist, he literally
it was an anorexic thing.
And it was like, if you ever saw that movie, he could not sleep, so all he did was work. And then he could not eat. So he was going crazy in the movie. So he literally was just like a waif. And it was a very interesting movie to watch. Are we live?
We are. Well, not live.
Oh.
Just recording.
I saw the little live thing in the corner. I was
That's always on there.
Oh, shoot. I didn't I'm sorry. I'm derailing. But anyway, so first off, I forgot Christian Bale was in this. And then you kind of leaned in and said, wow, Bale looks really great. I'm like, oh, yeah, it is Christian Bale. It was just kind of, it took me by surprise. I really like a lot of the makeup and the costumes and what they did with Natalie Portman and Christian Bale. And you see them, because there are parts of the movie where Jane is Jane with her dark brown hair. And, you see her at the beginning going through treatments and stuff. She's very frail looking. They got the pale makeup on her with like the hollow eyes.
Yeah.
So they took that and then they make her Mighty Thor and give her the long blonde wig. And then she's got kind of like charisma, and she was so nerdy, which made it like she kept trying to have a catchphrase.
Yeah, she was asking Thor, like, what would be a good catchphrase? Like, what did she say? This is my hammer.
Feel my hammer.
Feel my hammer.
And then she was really funny. And
it had a lot of cute moments, and obviously there's still romance,
a love connection,
romance brewing between them. So you're gonna get a little bit of that. The comedy is very good in this.
I really, really enjoyed it. I think, and this is why we're trying to, like, when we post this, it's going to say spoilers, because if you haven't seen it, I got some spoilers from people just by them saying, I was disappointed. And I'm like, oh God, I don't want to go.
Well, that's not really disappointing. That's just an opinion for me.
I know, but when somebody says to you, I'm disappointed, and then you have that in your head, you kind of go into the movie going, somebody's already disappointed in this movie. So it kind of skews you to say like,
well, you know, the one thing, because I posted the other day, I read a review from a critic,
mm-hmm.
and he made reference to the fact that he thought this was worse than Dark World. And I don't think so. Now, Dark World was a much darker film. There was very little comedy in that one.
But that's why I'm saying the second one is very different than the third and fourth one.
Right.
Because you said it was the same director for Ragnarok and for this one, Love and Thunder. And so that's why when I took it from these people who said I didn't like it, but I also didn't like the last one anyway. So I'm like, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just like it was not their style, but they like Dark World because it was more like serious and
yeah, some people like the more darker side. Some people have complaints about Marvel when it comes to tongue in cheek or.
But we have to remember these are comic books. This is not like Alfred Hitchcock. This is not, Stephen King. These are like literal, like bright comic books that have been around for years and years and years that are for kids, that kids have been reading. It will be punchy. It will be funny at times. And
we do have kids that play a part in this, especially towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
We have Hemdale's kid who's involved here, who plays a big part in this. So we're introduced to him, Astrid or Axel.
Axel, he changed his name.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. He's like, there's this band and that's the lead singer. And there was a lot of Guns N' Roses.
There's like 3 Guns N' Roses tracks. Then, of course, you have Dio at the end. And
it was during the credits. Yeah, we looked at each other and we're like, this is perfect for this.
Fuck yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of battling going back and forth when Gore never shows up to Olympus. I'm just going to call it Olympus because I can't remember the real name.
I can't remember what they called it. They called it something city. It was the something city.
But they tried to recruit Zeus, and Zeus is kind of like, no, Asgard's just got to deal with Asgard stuff. We just take care of ourselves.
Zeus is Russell Crowe. Yeah. Zeus is Russell Crowe, and he looks like stereotypical like Greek, and he's got like the Greek accent, and he's like, it was so freaking funny because like he has like the curly hair, and I'm like, oh my god, yeah, he's like, I loved it. I thought it was hysterical, and he's got all like 5 of his wives around him. But they were begging for his help, and he's just like, yeah, no.
So they deal with that, and then of course, we're not going to get too far into the end, but there is a big battle between Gore and
Val,
Thor, and as well as Jane Foster as well, because she shows back up.
I will give you one spoiler. They steal Zeus's thunderbolt, which was hysterical with the way. If you're going to use it, you call it the right name.
Right.
Thunderbolt.
And he says, no, you can't have it.
I loved it because I was laughing, and then I was like, because you find out Jane was sick, and I got a little choked up because Jane was sick, and then they reunited and they're like kissing and stuff, and I got all, because I'm a girl, I don't know, I like rom-coms. This was kind of a rom-com superhero movie.
Well, and it's cool about this too and what makes it a little bit different from Ragnarok is your villain Gore is a very sympathetic character. You find that out very early in this. By the time that opening scene's there, I'm like, wow, I kind of understand his pain here and why he's pissed off.
And why he wants to go after like all the gods. He's like, all the gods need to pay because the god that I worship turned out to be a douchebag, and they're all probably douchebags. And
he has a good point because he mentions it to Valkyrie at one point. He's like, all your sisters died. Where were the gods to help you then? So he's pointing out to certain things like that. He's like, look, the gods let you down. I'm just showing you that. Yeah.
But I think at the end when he's seeing like how much that Thor and Jane and Val and everybody actually like really do care for Earth, because Earth is like their baby, and they care for the Asgardians and stuff. He was kind of realizing like, this is maybe not everybody's the same. Maybe maybe I was wrong. Like, you could see he was like, the wheels were turning in his head, even though he's been fighting with them this entire time. He's seeing that,
Yeah, unlike Hela, who never saw any other side outside of hate and dominance, Gore's character is a lot different in that way. So by the time you get around to the end, it's very interesting how it plays out all the way around. I'm not going to give you more on that.
Yeah, we're not going to give you any more. I think this is, let's stop with the plot and give me kind of like your.
Well, we're going to give ratings.
Okay.
I have mine. So what
are we going out of 5 or out of 10?
Out of 10.
So I'm going first. Why do I have to go first? I don't know. I'm probably going to go 8 because I gave Maverick a 9, and I do think Maverick was a better movie than this. I know you gave Maverick a 10, so you might give this a 9, but that's why maybe I should have given Maverick a 10, but like, this movie was amazing, and I loved how it was kind of a roller coaster, and it's very cheesy and cheery, and it also gets serious and sad and fun. But when we saw Maverick a couple months ago, whenever we saw it, that was a solid, like, because it had that too. It had the emotion, it had the action, it had a surprise, everything. And I think Maverick is better than this, but this is still really good. So I'm giving it an 8.
Same here. 8 out of 10.
Wow.
Yeah. And I still agree. I agree with you. Maverick is probably the best movie so far this year. I mean, we still have a ways to go, but
I think a lot of people that we've spoken to.
But I found myself in this film like starting around 6 or 7, and still ended up with an 8. So clearly, whatever hesitancy I had early was taken away once the film ended. Like, it changed a lot for me. So
there's a lot of good.
So basically, I would say that, comparing it to Rotten Tomatoes, so the critics have it around 69% the last I saw, which would be like
a 7,
C- or something. So yeah, basically, I have it at 8. So it's much better for me than what they're saying, and you, of course. But not everybody's going to go in there the same way. But yeah, I enjoyed it. No problems there.
I mean, like, a 10 movie for me is like Steel Magnolias, and you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of like, you need that.
Steel Magnolias, where do you pull that shit out of your ass?
It's one of my favorite movies, and it like, I'll pop it on every now and then if I really want to cry, if I really need a good.
I mean, you could have said Departed. That would.
The Departed is a 10 too. The Departed is a 10 plus. Like, it's an 11.
But I will say something I didn't mention before is that initially going into this film, my impression from what I was reading was when Jane Foster shows up as Mighty Thor, I'm thinking, okay, we might see a transference of who is going to take over the role, but you might be surprised how the ending unfolds, and that's something that's to look for in this film. So
I think that's part of it too. Like, everybody's so worried that Thor is going to get like intertwined into something else. Fear not. As it says at the end of the credits, Thor will return. So it's just like how we were joking with James Bond. Like, it says James Bond will return. I really do. You gotta watch the Easter eggs at the end. Is that what we call them now? Easter eggs or
post credits?
Post credits. You have to watch them because.
Well, first one is definitely impactful for what's going on forward. So the other one was more of what was going on in the movie. So you'll get to it and you'll understand why. But it's a really cool scene. It is, and it might play a part down the road. We don't know, but
because right after that it says Thor will return,
right.
And you're like, hopefully, with some of this little post-credit information going into the next movie. And I don't know. I was surprised because I had heard a lot of hate from this movie. And I knew I wouldn't hate it because I love Thor. And I love Chris Hemsworth. Shirtless. And he's naked in this too, but you don't get to see anything. You get to see like
his butt.
Oh, the tattoo. The tattoo.
Oh, I can't give that away.
We're not going to give that away. He has a tattoo.
But yeah, when you saw it in the trailer when he got stripped
when
of his
Zeus
clothes,
flicked him,
the girls like fainted, and they were all like, when they covered him back up, the girls like, "Aw," it's like one of those things. So yeah, all the girls in the theater are fawning over him at that point.
I mean, I need to know Chris Hemsworth for these movies. I don't know if he does it all the time because we've seen him in other movies, and he doesn't look quite as buff. But dude, for this, he looked like he was working out like 3 hours every day.
Dad bod to God bod.
Dad bod to God bod. But he just looked.
Anyway, that's our review of Thor: Love and Thunder. We hope you enjoyed this, and give us some likes and subscribe. And then we'll see you next time, folks.